But the main thing was, my parents didn't like the idea. They were scared. Parents always want what's best for their children. And as a kid, you kind of have to listen to them, and you want to listen to them. And at the same time, it's good to really try to feel your own passion, right? Because your parents won't understand everything about you. They can't. And so it's hard to do something your parents might not like or that they may not think is a good idea. But I was telling Megan's mom on the way over here, not only did I live in Africa for 2 years, but I also lived in mainland China for a year in 1984 to 1985, and I taught in a university over there. And I also lived in an Eskimo village for a year in rural Alaska, where people still live a very traditional indigenous kind of life in a lot of ways. And so it was all because when I went to Africa, I really grew passionate about experiencing other cultures and going to far-flung places to see how life was and how people lived. So I lived in all these places, and every time I would go, I got no support from my family. I was telling Lu Miao when I told my dad I'm going to go to China and teach at a university for a year. I was 29. And my father was not happy. And in 1984, China wasn't the China it is today. And my father had no idea what I was getting myself into. And China was a lot poorer, and the relationship with China and the U.S. was more fragile. And he was like, China? What? China? Now China. Huh, now China. China. First it's Africa, then it's Alaska, now it's China. What if I die while you're in China? What if I die? And I was like, oh my God, I'm being a terrible daughter. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm horrible. I should be a better daughter. I'm never there for my parents. And oh my God, I'm just horrible. And then something clicked in my brain, and I said, Dad, what if you die? And I'm in Alaska. I was in Alaska when we were having this conversation, and he was in Pennsylvania. I'm like, what if you die and I'm in Alaska? What if you die and I'm in Pennsylvania? You could die and I could be at your bedside, Daddy, and you'll still be dead. And I said, I'm not going to live my life to make you comfortable. It's not going to affect whether you live or die if I go to China. I want to do this. Okay, so he says, and he just was mad, right? When I got back from China, I went to visit my family in Pennsylvania, and I went out with my dad to this club that he went to. It was like an older men get together and socialize and drink and stuff. Women went too, but it was mostly older guys who would go, right? And there are all his friends there. Oh, Roseanne, you're the one who went to China. Your father's so proud of you. Oh, Roseanne, you're Roseanne. Oh, yeah. Are you the one that went to China? Oh, your father can't stop talking about you. And that went on the whole evening. And when I left there, I said, Dad, you gave me such a hard time. You made me feel so guilty about going to China. And this is now what I'm hearing. And he said, I'm your father. It's my job to give you a hard time. So I'm just saying that because you have to, as young people, listen to your parents, but you also have to listen to your heart and yourself and feel where your passion lies, because that's where you'll do the best in life, is by following your passion. You have to manage your parents and your teachers, and because they're only looking out for your best interests, but they may not know what's best for you. And if I had listened to my parents and had done what they thought was best for me, my life would have been much less fulfilling, much less interesting, much less of a contribution to the world. So that's the main thing I want to say. When you think about tomorrow, listen to what people tell you, but also hear your own heart, and know yourself and know what you feel passionate about. And you don't want to be foolish, but you have to figure out the line between foolishness and brave, courage. Foolishness and courage, balance. Am I being foolish? Or am I being too timid? You have to be a little brave to be yourself in the world. And so that's the main thing, I think. And manage your family. When my father passed away, and I went to his wake, and we have in our tradition 3 days where they have the body laid out and people come to visit, and that precedes the funeral. I don't know. It's a different. I don't think in California they even do this at all. I've never seen it in California, but where I come from, they have the body laid out for 3 days, and everybody in the community can visit and talk to the family and show their condolences, and it's like a 3-day party kind of thing, you know. But it's to give support. Everybody who walked in the door for 3 days. My older sister was like, "What about me?" Because everybody came up to me and said, "Oh, you're the one who was in China and Africa." But when it was the time for me to go to China and Africa, my mother cried, my father argued, and I had to stand up and say, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And it's the same thing now, this generation. My first cousin has a daughter who wanted to go to medical school and be a doctor, and her family thought that was terrific. And then when she was in college, she decided to go to South Africa for a semester. Well, they didn't like that very much. And her sister called me up and said, "Call my parents. They're going crazy because Katie wants to go to South Africa for a semester." So I had to call my cousin and talk to her and her husband. I'm a lawyer, and they're both lawyers. And I had to tell them, "Look, it's okay. South Africa's safe. She's going to be fine. I have a friend who's from South Africa. You could talk to my friend." Right? And I had to talk them and calm them down. So she went to South Africa for a semester. She comes back with a whole new idea about her career. She doesn't want to be a doctor. She wants to get a PhD in public health. And that made her parents' eyes roll, you know. I mean, because doctor is a lot of prestige, and it's something they understand. And what's this public health stuff, you know? I mean, and what can you do with that? And what kind of job do you get? And will it be a job that takes you away to some place where we won't see you? You know, so it's an Italian family. Their parents are very controlling and neurotic, right? So they're, you know, upset. But it got more interesting. She just did what she wanted to, and then she got accepted into Johns Hopkins graduate school. And Johns Hopkins is like the best graduate school for public health in the whole country. A very excellent medical school. And while she's in graduate school, she decides she's going to go to Rwanda for 2 years. Well, then I get another call from her sister. And her sister said, "Roseanne, you better call Katie and my parents." She goes, "Katie needs some support, and she's not going to get it from the family." And then I called up Katie, and we talked through the middle of the night, you know, because we both loved Africa. And she ended up, between her master's and her PhD, in Rwanda and Zambia, working for a clinic that had been started by an American woman who was a doctor who had grown up in Africa, and she was there for 2 years, and she had an amazing experience. And it's not easy to do this kind of stuff, but it's always interesting. And she was following her heart, and it's not always easy to follow your heart. And you know, now she's back here in the country, and she's working at Johns Hopkins as an science. I forget the title, like assistant scientist for research. And she researches, diseases. When she was in Africa, she was working with the HIV clinic. I mean, the work she does is awesome. She loves it, and everything's worked out fine. She has her PhD. She's marrying this awesome guy, who's, and everything. Her parents, everybody's happy. Even though she's marrying someone who's Jewish, and we're Italian Catholic, so of course she did something different there too. But everybody accepts it and loves it. But this is when you might be the first one in your family to do something different, and you have to sometimes hear your own inner voice, because your parents mean well, but only you can know what is your path. So I'm going to stop right there, and anyone who wants to ask me questions, please ask, because we don't have much time.
How did you pursue your studies after you came back from the Peace Corps?
Okay, so when I first came back from the Peace Corps, I struggled a little bit trying to figure out what I wanted. But I knew that I wanted to live in other places. So I moved to the West Coast first. I was living from northeastern Pennsylvania. And then I lived out here, You know, in your usual way. I applied to colleges, but I actually traveled a lot. That was when I moved up to Alaska